Kenya, a beacon of East Africa, found itself teetering on the precipice of turmoil in the year 2024. The nation, known for its vibrant culture and economic potential, was grappling with a cost of living crisis that had pushed its citizens to the brink. The weight of economic hardship, fueled by rising inflation and unemployment, had ignited a simmering discontent among the populace. At the heart of the brewing storm was the government's proposed Finance Bill 2024. This contentious bill, seen by many as tone-deaf to the plight of ordinary Kenyans, threatened to exacerbate their financial woes. It was a tinderbox awaiting a spark, and that spark came on June 25, 2024, in the form of nationwide protests. The protests, a culmination of mounting frustration and anger, were a testament to the resilience of the Kenyan spirit in the face of adversity. They were a cry for change, a desperate plea for a government that listened to the voices of its people. This is the story of that day, a day when the streets of Nairobi ran red with the blood of innocent civilians, a day that would forever be etched in the annals of Kenyan history. The Finance Bill 2024, ostensibly introduced to bolster government revenue, was in reality a heavy yoke placed upon the necks of ordinary Kenyans. Its provisions, instead of alleviating the financial strain on the populace, seemed deliberately designed to worsen it. The bill proposed a raft of tax hikes on essential goods and services, further eroding the purchasing power of an already struggling population. Fuel, a cornerstone of the Kenyan economy, was slapped with a hefty tax, sending ripple effects throughout the nation. The price of transportation skyrocketed, impacting the cost of food and other essential commodities. For a nation heavily reliant on agriculture, the increased cost of fertilizer threatened to cripple farmers and disrupt food security. Even basic necessities like food and housing were not spared the taxman's axe. VAT was imposed on previously exempt foodstuffs, pushing the price of basic sustenance beyond the reach of many. Housing, a fundamental human need, became even more unattainable as the cost of building materials soared. The Finance Bill 2024 was not just a set of economic policies, it was a direct assault on the livelihoods of millions of Kenyans. It was a stark reminder of the disconnect between the government and the governed, a testament to the indifference of those in power to the suffering of their people. In the face of such blatant economic aggression, the youth of Kenya refused to remain silent. Fueled by righteous anger and a deep-seated love for their country, they took to the streets, transforming their despair into a powerful force for change. Armed with nothing more than their voices and smartphones, they harnessed the power of social media, using platforms like TikTok and Instagram to mobilize and organize. Hashtags like #RejectFinanceBill 2024 and #OccupyParliament became rallying cries, uniting a generation disillusioned by the government's apathy. What started as online activism quickly spilled onto the streets, transforming into a nationwide movement that transcended tribal and socioeconomic divides. The atmosphere in the days leading up to June 25th was electric. A sense of unity and shared purpose permeated the air. Activist Boniface Mwangi, a prominent voice in the movement, described the initial protests as a carnival of hope and solidarity. Young people, brimming with the idealism and energy of youth, came together to demand a better future for themselves and their nation. June 25, 2024, dawned with a sense of anticipation. Thousands of protesters, their numbers swelled by ordinary citizens fed up with the government's excesses, converged on Nairobi's streets, their voices united in a chorus of dissent. They marched peacefully, waving placards, singing songs of freedom, and chanting slogans denouncing the Finance Bill and those who championed it. Their calls for dialogue, however, were met with the iron fist of the state. The police, clad in riot gear, descended upon the peaceful protesters with brutal efficiency. Tear gas canisters rained down from the sky, engulfing the crowd in a choking fog. Water cannons blasted jets of water with bone-jarring force, sending protesters sprawling onto the tarmac. The air, once filled with the sounds of protest songs and chants, was now thick with the acrid smell of tear gas and the screams of fleeing demonstrators. Panic gripped the crowd as the police, their faces contorted in masks of aggression, waded into the fleeing protesters, batons flailing. The day that began with hope and a yearning for a better tomorrow descended into chaos and bloodshed. As the dust settled on that fateful day, a horrifying truth emerged. 3 unarmed protesters, their lives tragically cut short, lay dead, victims of the state's brutal crackdown. David Chedge, a 39-year-old software engineer with dreams of a brighter future, was gunned down while trying to flee the escalating violence. Erickson Mutisya, a 25-year-old butcher working tirelessly to support his family, met a similar fate, his life extinguished by a bullet meant to silence dissent. And then there was Eric Shieni, a 27-year-old finance student, his aspirations for a career in finance snuffed out by a hail of bullets. Their deaths, a chilling testament to the state's willingness to use lethal force against its own citizens, sparked outrage and grief throughout the nation. The government, initially dismissive of the deaths, attempted to paint the victims as criminals and agitators, a narrative quickly debunked by eyewitness accounts and video footage. The BBC Africa Eye documentary, Blood Parliament, released in April 2025, further exposed the truth behind the June 25th massacre. Using a trove of over 5,000 photos and videos, the documentary meticulously reconstructed the events of that day, identifying the security forces responsible for the deaths of the 3 protesters. The documentary's findings were damning. It revealed that Eric Shieni was shot dead by a Kenya Defense Forces soldier, clearly identifiable by his uniform from a distance of 25 meters. It further implicated a plainclothes police officer, John Kaboi, who was filmed shouting "UAA, kill" in Swahili, moments before gunfire erupted. The documentary, a testament to the power of investigative journalism, ripped away the veil of secrecy surrounding the events of June 25th, exposing the state's culpability in the deaths of innocent civilians. Section 6. A Nation in Mourning, a World Watches Reactions to the Bloodshed. The aftermath of the June 25th protests was one of collective grief and outrage. Kenyans, united in their sorrow and anger, took to the streets once more, this time to mourn the dead and demand justice for the fallen. Social media platforms, instrumental in mobilizing the protests, became spaces for sharing grief, expressing anger, and demanding accountability. The hashtag #BloodParliament, a chilling reminder of the day's events, trended globally, amplifying the voices of Kenyans demanding justice. Prominent figures, including opposition leader Raila Odinga, condemned the government's heavy-handedness and called for an independent inquiry into the killings. The international community too was quick to react. Leaders from across the globe expressed their condolences and condemned the violence. Bobi Wine, the Ugandan opposition leader, drew parallels to the state-sponsored violence plaguing his own country, while South Africa's Julius Malema called for sanctions against the Kenyan government. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary-General, urged restraint and called for dialogue to resolve the crisis. The Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya Human Rights Commission, appalled by the blatant disregard for human life, demanded thorough investigations and accountability for those responsible. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority, tasked with investigating police misconduct, faced mounting pressure to deliver justice. Section 7. Justice Delayed, Justice Denied, the Elusive Pursuit of Accountability. Despite the national and international outcry, the pursuit of justice for the victims of the June 25th massacre has been agonizingly slow. The government, after initially dismissing the calls for accountability, announced an inquiry into the deaths, but many viewed it as a delay tactic. A year after the tragic events, no one has been held accountable for the deaths of David Chedge, Erickson Mutisya, and Eric Shieni. The KDF, despite being implicated in the BBC Africa Eye documentary, has yet to launch an investigation into the actions of its soldier. John Kaboi, the police officer filmed inciting violence, remains a free man, a stark reminder of the culture of impunity that pervades the Kenyan security forces. IPOA, despite promising a swift investigation, has yet to release its findings, further fueling suspicions of a cover-up. The families of the victims, their grief compounded by the lack of justice, continue to wait for answers, their hopes for closure fading with each passing day. The slow pace of justice, a painful reminder of the deep-rooted flaws within the Kenyan justice system, has left many disillusioned. The fight for accountability, however, continues, fueled by the unwavering determination of the families of the victims and the countless Kenyans who refuse to let their deaths be in vain. Section 8. The Unseen Scars. The Enduring Impact of June 25th. The events of June 25, 2024, left an indelible mark on the Kenyan psyche. Beyond the physical scars inflicted by bullets and batons, there are unseen wounds that continue to fester. The trauma of that day, seared into the collective memory of a nation, has shaken the faith of many in the institutions meant to protect them. The fear of state-sanctioned violence, once a distant worry, has become a palpable reality for many Kenyans. The right to peaceful assembly, enshrined in the Constitution, now comes at a heavy price, a price paid in blood and tears. The economic anxieties that fueled the protests remain unaddressed. The Finance Bill 2024, though eventually withdrawn, cast a long shadow, highlighting the government's disconnect from the realities faced by ordinary Kenyans. The events of that day served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present potential for violence in a nation grappling with social and economic inequalities. Section 9. A Call for Change. Amplifying the voices of the silenced. The blood spilled on the streets of Nairobi on June 25, 2024, was a potent symbol of the struggle for a more just and equitable Kenya. The fight for justice for David, Erickson, and Eric is not just about holding their killers accountable, it is about dismantling the systems that allow such atrocities to occur with impunity. It is a call for a more transparent and accountable government, a government that prioritizes the welfare of its citizens over self-enrichment. It is a call for an end to police brutality and the culture of impunity that protects those who swore to serve and protect. The BBC Africa Eye documentary Blood Parliament served as a crucial step towards achieving justice. By exposing the truth, it has empowered Kenyans to demand better from their leaders. The international community too must continue to pressure the Kenyan government to address its human rights record and ensure that those responsible for the June 25th massacre are held accountable. The journey towards a more just and equitable Kenya is long and arduous, but it is a journey that must be taken. The blood of those who fell on that fateful day demands it. Their memory serves as a constant reminder of the price of silence and the urgency of action. Let their sacrifice be the catalyst for the change Kenya so desperately needs.